I'd like to again express my thanks and our team's thanks to Northrop Grumman for sponsoring today's lunch. If we could give Northrop again a round of applause, please. Before introducing Chris Herron from Northrop, who will introduce our keynote, I'd like to just let you know about a couple of our upcoming events this year. If the slide could come up, please. The next event will be on August 3rd. We have our annual Cybersecurity Summit, the second Cybersecurity Summit on the automotive sector, which will be in Detroit. And that, again, is August 3rd. And then we have our 9th annual Billington Cybersecurity Summit, which is our largest summit of the year. And that will be on September 6th at the Washington Convention Center. So we also have a leadership council, which is a networking opportunity for folks to have a more intimate discussion by Chatham House rule. And that's also, we will have 3 more sessions for that over the course of the year. So if you'd like to support these events or participate, please do let us know. And thank you for that. Now, we are having a slight shift in the schedule. Ms. Manfra is on the Hill at a hearing. So we are going to have Mr. Hogue, who has kindly agreed to speak earlier, who will speak next. Chris Herron will be introducing Mr. Hogue. Chris is the Director of Business Development for the Global Cyber Solutions Business Unit for Northrop Grumman Mission Systems, Cyber and Intelligence Mission Solutions Division. So Chris, I will let you introduce our keynote, and then we'll be following that by a panel that will include Mr. Hogue as well. So thank you very much, and Chris.
All right, good afternoon. It's thank you, Tom. It's an honor to be the lead underwriter again for the 3rd annual Billington International Cybersecurity Summit, and once again the host for this event's lunch session. As Tom indicated, I'm Chris Herron, Director of Business Development for our Global Cyber Solutions business. Our Global Cyber Solutions business includes not only our domestic, federal, civilian, and DoD business, but also related businesses in the United Kingdom and Australia. It's this footprint that gives us unique insight into the powerful linkages and outcomes possible when cyber leaders like our keynote speaker engage their counterparts and industry to address critical cyber challenges. Billington is a great forum for discussing relevant issues and bringing together thought leaders from across government and industry on this topic. Hope each of you are taking advantage and benefiting from the engagement and the networking. So with that, we've got a busy afternoon session, so let me get to introducing David. David Hogue is the Technical Director to the Threat Operations Center, to the National Security Agency's Cybersecurity Threat Operations Center, a dynamic national-level entity that serves at the forefront of the fight against malicious cyber activity through integrated cybersecurity operations. Previously, Hogue was the Technical Director of the Analysis Group at the NSA Threat Operations Center, charged to deliver the threat intelligence across a multitude of threat actors and technologies. While in this position, Hogue also served as the corporate officer leading agency-wide efforts such as NSA's response in delivering functional technical analysis and attribution of the 2014 Sony Pictures Entertainment computer network attack. May I introduce you, David Hogue.
Thank you. The comfy after lunch first speaking spot. So I'm reading Daniel Pink's newest book, When it talks all about optimal decision making, and the worst time to go is right before lunch, they found, right? There's a famous court case in which the judges were handing down very harsh sentences right before lunch, and then when they got back, much more lenient. So I'm expecting everyone is in a great mood, right? And I think it's a testament to the crowd that we have assembled here, that we've made it in through very adverse weather and are here to talk about cybersecurity today. So I'm Dave Hogue. I oversee NSA's Cybersecurity Operations Center. So what that is that's a 24 by 7 by 365 footprint that it's probably the largest footprint you're gonna find throughout the federal government and most private sectors. And our core mission there is defending the unclassified Department of Defense networks, right? Those are over 3 million users across the globe. And you can imagine all kinds of the dynamic threat activity that we see on a daily basis. So today I'd like to talk about innovation. And so why am I going to talk about innovation? Let's go back several years ago, to 2012, right, when Iranian hackers exploited a known vulnerability in the US Navy Marine Corps' public-facing web server. It penetrated the Navy's unclassified administrative network and maneuvered to a private network from there. It cost over $10 million to repair the damage, which included taking the entire network down on 2 separate occasions. Fast forward to last year, right, when hackers exploited a known vulnerability in a public-facing Equifax web server, right, penetrated their internal database, obtained sensitive information on over 145 million US consumers. It's cost Equifax over $600 million so far, and it's rated as the costliest breach in history. These 2 seminal moments in cyber breach history, they're 5 years apart, and yet the characteristics of each are depressingly similar in nature. Right? Both involved sophisticated hackers using very unsophisticated means, simple web scanning, and they both involve known vulnerabilities. In fact, you take a look at the activities, the high-profile activities over the last year, to include the recent cyber attack during the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games, and these are using, again, known vulnerabilities. From my position, overseeing our operational teams at NSA, we continue to see adversaries achieve success after success without being challenged to use non-public means. In fact, NSA has not responded to an intrusion that's used a zero-day vulnerability in over 24 months. So therefore, we have to challenge ourselves in forums like this to really disrupt the status quo and embrace innovative approaches in order to change the current cybersecurity paradigm. Innovation comes in many forms, and today I'd like to cover several that are working for us over at NSA. So the first I'm going to cover is policy. I know policy doesn't first come to mind when you're thinking of innovation, but our adversaries have certainly embraced policy. So you look at specifically China and Russia, right, they've enacted policies that demand access to user data and source code of foreign companies who do business in country. So rather than resorting to cyber theft to obtain data of interest, they now have another means. So I think we have to be aggressive in our embrace of policy as well. Right? And I look no further than what the UK is doing with their stand-up of the National Cybersecurity Center, aka the NCSC. Rather than having a bunch of different government entities in play with various roles in cyber, right, they designated the NCSC to be the singular focal point. They've achieved buy-in from both the public and the private sector, with a bold declarative vision statement, right, to make the UK the safest place to live and do business online. Now, this required, some policy changes and some reorganization within their government agencies, but the result is that the UK's experts in high-demand areas, such as vulnerability assessments, security solutions, and instant response, they're all housed together now under the UK's intelligence arm, giving those experts access to the skills and capabilities of the UK's intelligence organization. NCSC has been very, very transparent too. They released their 1-year assessment recently of their active cyber defense program. This was a charter to reimagine and retool cybersecurity efforts across the UK and really focus on foundational best practices. And you can find a report online. The results are very impressive. They include faster takedown of known phishing sites and much more enhanced email security, including a drop of over 500,000 emails from fraudulent government.uk accounts. Why is this important? Well, at RSA last year, it was continued that adversaries' #1 use is email to get inside networks, accounting for over 90% of such attempts. So by looking at a simple approach like policy, the UK, as they noted, simple things done at scale can have a positive and measurable effect, and UK public is safer as a result. Now, the second area of innovation I'd like to touch on is technical in nature, specifically artificial intelligence and machine learning. Right? These technologies are having an amazing impact on our everyday lives. Right? I think a recent gathering of international data scientists, it was stated that today is going to be the slowest day of the rest of your life. Right? let that think in for a moment, right? Every single day, the world is becoming faster and more efficient, right? Machine learning and artificial intelligence, they're improving the driving routes you take, the products you buy. They're absolutely going to impact the way we do cybersecurity. At NSA, we're using machine learning to empower our skilled network defenders to find malicious activity, attack vectors, and anomalies in real time. Right? The sheer volume of cyber threats that are out there, right? There's over 250,000 new malware variants that pop up each day, for example. Right? They're going to challenge signature-based systems to keep pace. They're going to overwhelm security teams with alerts. Machine learning models now, you can train them to work across network, cloud, and Internet of Things environments. Parse them through vast quantities of data to discover connections that were previously unknown. At NSA, these machine learning models help our analysts find activity much more earlier in the adversary lifecycle, driving our defensive posture to be proactive and preventative rather than waiting for alerts to occur. So by embracing machine learning, not to replace our human analysts, but to really automate a lot of the checklist-driven tasks that they're faced with, we free up their capacity to focus on much more sophisticated activity. The opportunities offered by machine learning make their jobs much more intriguing. So by combining the capabilities of the technology with the deep insights of our experts, we're able to outpace the cyber threat environment. Third area of innovation I'd like to cover is being able to harness the talent and expertise from the broader cyber community rather than looking to do everything internally. One area in which the DoD has been able to do this is the bug bounty programs, right? In which they can sanction, patriotic-minded researchers to find, previously undiagnosed flaws in government websites. The Air Force recently wrapped up an effort in February, and other iterations included kind of hack the Army and hack the Pentagon efforts. These are an amazing, proactive, economical means to find vulnerabilities that were previously unknown. For the Air Force, for example, for just over $100,000, they eliminated over 100 vulnerabilities within their public-facing websites, including a critical flaw that would allow an adversary to pivot to a restricted Department of Defense network. Right? Industry has jumped on the bug bounty programs as well. Right? Microsoft, Google, Tesla, right? They're all finding them very economical to eliminate previously unknown vulnerabilities. The Secretary of Defense stated that the first bug bounty program has saved the DoD over $1 million when compared with the traditional costs of bringing in a vendor to do a penetration test and an assessment. And I think the cost savings are even more dramatic when you look at the damage an adversary could do if they were able to exploit one of these vulnerabilities. Reference the $12 million up to $600 million figure that I mentioned earlier. So the fourth area of innovation is people-based approaches, right? We all know there's over 200,000 cybersecurity vacancies in the US alone right now. As we work to fill those vacancies, the vast majority of organizations are finding that a lot of applicants just aren't qualified, right? And that number is only going to continue to increase. So we have to, in my opinion, look to non-traditional approaches to be able to fill these vacancies, right? Rather than looking at the traditional STEM fields for technical talent, I think we need to place more of an emphasis on individual problem solving and aptitude. At NSA, we've taken some of our language analysts and embedded them in our operations center, right? So they come up and say, hey, Dave, I'm sorry, I don't know much about cybersecurity. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I can teach you cybersecurity in a couple weeks. I can't teach you Farsi in a couple weeks, right? You bring an amazing skill set. And those, honestly, have been some of our best analysts, right? Looking past that non-cyber / computer science background. And why is this important? Our thoughts, in 5 or 10 years, that information and data is going to be so highly automated that rather than STEM fields, the in-demand fields are going to be thought-based, such as philosophy, right? You're going to need thinkers to ask questions of the data that machines can't automate. So let's bring those folks in now so they have a better understanding of cybersecurity. Again, I think we have a phenomenal chance right now to change the way that we approach cybersecurity. Looking across the room here, I think if we can look to unify our efforts, at a global scale, we can raise that bar up and eliminate a lot of these common adversarial attacks that we're seeing. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, David. We appreciate your coming and speaking at an earlier time in the day. Thank you very much.